This is an LLD production.
Hey folks, welcome to this episode of Olia's Opinions, the podcast in which we take a better look into the world we love, learn new things, and debate the toughest issues the world has in store. I am your host, Armand Olia. I am a journalism student at Drexel University in Philadelphia, and, well, I just have one question to start with. Did everyone have a great summer? I know I did. I hope you guys did too. Actually, let's just say mine was pretty eventful. So anyway, this is my first episode in 4 months, and there were two reasons for why I was out. First of all, I was busy working at my co-op at Philadelphia Magazine at the time. I had a wonderful time there, got to learn a lot of new things, got to meet some very interesting people who I hope to have on the show at some point. They really have helped me in terms of helping me improve the podcast. And also, I wanted to help improve this podcast and change it up. Watch the October 21st episode to see exactly what I mean. And I feel that with what we're doing now, this podcast is going to be so much better. I can't wait for you guys to join me with that. But anyway, during those 4 months with Philadelphia Magazine, there was a major news event happening across the Pacific Ocean in a country that I have a bit of an emotional investment in because I lived there for 9 years, so a very large portion of my life. And I was pretty aware of what's going on because I was there the last time there were major protests about 5 years ago. And let's just say that I've wanted to discuss it for a while. I didn't really have the opportunity, but now I can really no longer avoid it. And of course, that would be Hong Kong. So I'm not going to blame anyone. I'm not going to point fingers. I'm not going to sensationalize everything. So I'm just going to explain the facts. About 4 or 5 months ago, Hong Kong Legislative Council, also known as LegCo, they created an extradition bill. It essentially says that if you commit a crime in Hong Kong, you could be extradited to China to face charges, with the worst possible punishment in any crime in China being the death penalty. Now, this, let's just say, was not necessarily a popular decision made for the Hong Kong people, because Hong Kong and China have had a very long history in terms of autonomy, and Hong Kong always feels like its own country. And in fact, in terms of culture, in terms of everything, from when I lived there, it definitely felt like a different country than China. In fact, if you talk to people from Hong Kong, they never like saying, oh, like, they're Chinese. No, they're not Chinese. They're Hong Kongers. So yeah, everyone got upset with that, and because of that, for the last 4 or 5 months, there have been massive protests on the streets of Hong Kong. The Legislative Council building actually got broken into and vandalized. Shots have been fired, tear gas has been pulled, people have been arrested. It's really it's such a crazy, crazy situation that's been going on. And quite frankly, as an observer and as someone who lived in Hong Kong for many years, it's genuinely horrifying. But at the same time, I do have a lot of support for the protesters, and I think you guys should as well, because what they're fighting for is just absolutely outstanding. They're fighting for their freedom, they're fighting for their democracy, which is always highly admirable. And yeah, I mean, there's nothing really much more to say other than, well, it's crazy. The protests that were going on at the airport, I've been to that airport countless times in the last 9 years. I could tell you exactly where the protesters were. I could tell you where the police were coming in and out, using barricades as shields. The violence breaking amongst the protesters, which is partially caused by the Hong Kong police and also a combined effort by the Chinese Triad, who have been supposedly working with the Hong Kong government. Of course, state media has been denying it. Although, let's just say, state media denies it, the Hong Kong people confirm it. I'm going to go with the Hong Kong people on this one, but that's just me. But yeah, it's really sickening to watch. I mean, a few days ago, you might have heard that there were shots fired in Hong Kong, which to me is news because in the 9 years I lived there, no gun ever went off. There was no report of a gun crime. It's really a very sad situation for the Hong Kong people. And this could really, in the end, prove to be either China's ultimate rise or almost ultimate fall, in the sense that the outcome will essentially show where China stands on the global totem pole. If they essentially squash the Hong Kong rebellion, they essentially become the next big superpower. And if they don't, then the United States assumes that role. That's essentially why people in the US should care, because the outcome will directly impact the United States' standing in the world. But in any case, the situation is terrible. I really hope for a very quick resolution. And I hope that you guys can support the protesters in any way you can, whether it be if you have friends in Hong Kong, talk to them, see what's going on. Always keep updated. Do not let democracy die in darkness, as the New York Times would say. But yeah, that's the Hong Kong protests. People have been asking my thoughts on that. Those are my thoughts. So yeah, let's. I think we should probably take a break. So a little bit of background into the artists we're about to play. I was scouting over the last 4 months for great artists to bring on to the show, because I didn't want to put any of our old artists on there. No offense to them. They're amazing. But I also wanted to just switch it up a little bit and give you guys someone who you definitely hadn't heard before. Now, I've been doing this for the last 2 years, and I feel like I've seen a lot of things. I feel like I've promoted a lot of really good artists, and I thought that I saw everything. And then I saw this artist performing at World Cafe Live promoting her latest album, Up, Up, and Away. I mean, she not only can sing, which you hear on the album, she is an amazing trumpet player, and she can command the stage like no one else I've ever seen in my life. I made a joke with her. I called her the best pure artist we've ever had on this show. And what I mean by that is she literally lives and breathes her art. Like, there's really no other part of her. It's such a natural expression. It's like breathing. That's how good she is. And I'm so happy that we get to have her on. And I hope anyway we get to have her on a few more times, performing the song Up, Up, and Away, which is the first track of the album of the same name. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Taylor Kelly.
Get so high. You must have come from the stars, crashing the earth like from Mars. No doubt in my mind, you're extraterrestrial. You sent me over the moon, far past the dish with the spoon. Didn't know it was possible to get so high. You must have come from the stars, crashing the earth like from Mars. Can't keep my hands to myself. Can't think of nobody else. You've got me under your spell, and that's alright with me. Can't keep my hands to myself. Can't think of nobody else. You've got me under your spell, and that's alright with me. Said I could use a distraction. I didn't think it'd be this. I feel too drunk on your kiss to navigate through space. Go all the way to the sun. Don't wanna stop having fun. You know just what to say to make me float away. Yeah. Make me float away. Can't keep my hands to myself. Can't think of nobody else. You've got me under your spell, and that's alright with me. Can't
Once again, that was Taylor Kelly's Up, Up, and Away from the album of the same name, available iTunes and Spotify, all links in the description. I'm just going to say this right now, she is definitely the best pure artist we have ever had on this show. She can sing, she can move, she can play the trumpet, she just has the flash, the charm, she has the ear, she has the talent. I'm amazed at this point, by the way, she hasn't gotten farther in her career at this point because, oh my God, I mean, it's baffling to me. I mean, I even told her that. I was at Rittenhouse Soundworks a few days ago with her, and she's part of a band called Thinking Big. I hope we can get them on the show as well because they're absolutely outstanding. Yeah, shout out to Jonah, to Isaiah, to, of course, to Taylor. I hope you're listening because all three of you were absolutely phenomenal, but I do digress. Trust me, when Thinking Big is on, I will really go into that. But anyway, Taylor has an amazing mind for music. She has an amazing ear. She commands excitement. If you were to ask me, how do you explain, I mean, she's like, in terms of her stage presence, she's like James Brown for sure in terms of the excitement she brings, but she has definitely the voice of, probably, I joked with her, if I remember correctly, what would happen if James Brown and Norah Jones had a baby or something along the lines of that. But she has an amazing voice. Her stage presence is absolutely outstanding. Every track she's had on this album, it tops the last. But I'm not gonna get too much into that because honestly, if you want to get the full picture, go get it yourself. It's Taylor Kelly. The album is Up, Up, and Away. That is the lead song on that, also called Up, Up, and Away on iTunes and Spotify. The links for those will be in the description. Let us continue. So I wanted to do something a little bit special, and I wanted, on my return anyway, to give the show to you guys, give the show to the fans. And the one thing I asked was that if you guys have any questions for me regarding the show, just anything. If you guys want to ask me anything about the show, I'm more than happy to answer it on this episode. And you know what? We actually got a few questions right here. So I got my phone, got my trusty little iPhone right here, and I'm just going to read a few of these. Okay, so first question. How long does it take you to make one episode? Well, I strategically planned it so that way I could do an episode per 2 weeks. So I would do 2 weeks in between it. I would write the next episode, record it, take a few days off, 2 weeks, record it, take a few days off. But I found anyway, it's very draining. So now what I like to do is I like to come with 4 or 5 episodes in advance, book everybody, make sure everything is good, and then just do all the episodes at once. Not in terms of the taping, in terms of the writing, in terms of the planning, in terms of what exactly I'm going to talk about. That takes a few months. I mean, even the next episode we're going to do, it took me 4 months actually to plan it out. The last few episodes I've been doing since hiatus started. So yeah, how long does it take me to make one episode? I normally don't make one episode, but it used to be 2 weeks. Now I try to take 4 months, or as long as I need to make sure that it's thorough. So, next question. How difficult was it to get started? Actually, believe it or not, it wasn't that difficult. I mean, first of all, you need to get a good microphone, which if you go on Amazon, if you go to Best Buy or any electronics store, you can get a good microphone. Just ask them, that's a good USB microphone, because you can plug it into your computer, you can use GarageBand or on PC, I don't know what the equivalent is there, but you can use that and record the audio there. You can even use your iPhone. I'm not even kidding. I've done a few of these shows just using my iPhone when I couldn't get my hands on my microphone. So yeah, I mean, it's not that difficult. All you need is just a laptop and a microphone and just writing a script. If you can do all three, you can do a podcast. So yeah. Next question. How far-fetched can your show go in topics you explore? That's a good question. I mean, considering these are my opinions, I'd like to say I err on the side of logic and honesty and reason. I think it depends on the person. If you're super on the left, probably super pro mumble rap or things like that, mine are gonna be very far-fetched. If you agree with me on things like mumble rap, then not too much. Again, I think it's going to depend from person to person. The only way to find out if, in terms of the topics, in terms of how far-fetched they can be, is just going ahead and listen. I want to talk about things in music that not many people are talking about, and if they are, try to do it at least a little bit better. I hope anyway. But yeah, that's just how far-fetched they go. So let's see, next question. What are Olia's opinions? Oh, okay. Well, Olia's opinions, I should say mine, they are pretty vast and they cover a lot of ground. So I can't say exactly what they are because it depends, obviously, from subject to subject. So I don't know. If you want to figure out what my opinions are, obviously, you can, I know who sent me this question. You can ask me that, and I'll be more than happy to tell you. But if any of y'all actually want to know, you can always message us at Love Learn Debate on all our social media, and then I can probably tell you what my opinions are. That always is up to you. Okay, next question. How do you select your guests? Okay. Well, they're all people who I find interesting, and they're people who I think that you will find interesting. And I try to keep it very varied, so they're not from the same field. But as we're doing a music podcast, I really am being careful in who I pick. So, for example, next episode we're talking about rap. So we're having a rapper, not too famous, but he's a pretty damn good rapper, I will say, who's going to be coming on. We're going to be having a fan of Ariana Grande coming on potentially to talk about Ariana Grande. We're going to be bringing someone who's an expert on the didgeridoo to talk about the didgeridoo, that type of thing. It's spoiler alerts. I'm sorry. I should have made that a prerequisite. But yeah, I select my guests based on expertise and how interesting I think they are and the perspective they can bring. And also, if their perspective is similar to mine, then maybe not. I like to get people with a very different background and somewhat different from me, so that way it can be a very interesting conversation. So yeah, that's how I select my guests. Would love to know how you come up with the concept of each show. It's, there's actually, the next question after that is how do you decide what to talk about? What's the creative process? I'll walk you through the whole thing. So what happens is when I know what the dates are, I like to think about, okay, are there anything I know I can talk about at this point? So, okay, I'll give you a good example. Let's say it's February and my mother's birthday is coming up. I know that I want to, for that week anyway, to do something about Persian music. So old school Persian music, so Vigen, Gugush, Hayadet, some of the best Persian artists, and just do a retrospective on them and talk about their impact, and not just Persian music, but also potentially in Western music, because they should get more attention. I also want to talk about things that normal people don't talk about in terms of music. Obviously, we can make debates about mumble rap till the cows come home, and I'm starting with that in 2 weeks' time because, honestly, I want to do something a little bit simple, but I want to at least give a little pizzazz, give you guys a little taste of what's to come. And then after that, when I know what my topic is going to be and I know what I want to debate, I just go and I research it. I research and I research and I research. My training is as a journalist. I want to be able to go through the topic, and I ask myself a bunch of questions beforehand. It's a key that I understand what I want to know and how much I want to learn. So that is how I do it. I go through and I research it, and that's why I take so long for each episode. Like I said, it was 3 or 4 months, because I want to know that I know that I know that I know what I'm talking about when I'm talking to these guests who are essentially almost experts. So yeah, that's the creative process. And then after that, once I did all the research, then from there I start writing the online articles, which do not take very long because I know what I'm trying to say. And then from there I do the that next part that I do, I'm going to keep a bit of a secret because that's part of what we're going to be revealing on October 21st. So yeah, nothing yet. Don't say anything. Okay, so besides that, after I do that particular thing, then I save them, I create visuals, I create the the hyperlinks, everything. Just make sure that everything is ready. Put it off to the side, and then I begin sort of plotting out the episode, making sure and just routinely checking with that guest host if they're how they're coming along. Make sure they're doing that. And actually, when we do film reviews, I actually learned a little trick from Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert, who I think are the greatest film critics of all time. When they would do a film review, they would never talk to the other, so that way when they were on camera, their reactions were completely authentic. So nothing was fake. I've done it with Bowling for Columbine, with Roy Aguilar, who I hope we can get on the show sometime soon. I did it with Life is Beautiful with Frankie Alcanati, who again I hope we can get on the show pretty soon. I do it with everybody. Like, I try to make sure that whatever we're talking about, like, the other person does not know what I'm going to say. I don't know what they're going to say. So we're both going in completely blind, but we know what we're going to be talking about. So yeah, I mean, and then of course, depending on how much time I have left, I might write a few notes. I actually keep the printed notes I did during the research, and I'll bring them with me during the episode. And then when we do the actual debate, I'll actually read the notes if I need to remember something. So yeah, it's useful to do all that. That's the creative process. I brainstorm an idea, I come up with research questions, I research it and research it and research it. I find a film or a television series or anything like that I think could pair well with it, and then from there I review that, and that's pretty straightforward. It's watching the movie, watching the source, and just thinking about what you like, what you don't like, what you think could be improved. And it's all, again, subjective, because of course my review isn't going to be the same as, say, who's a good film critic? Okay, fine. I'll say Roger Ebert, even though I know he's dead. Let's say Roger Ebert. We're not going to have the same review because we're not going to have the same perspective on things. Or Richard Roper. That's a really good one. We're not going to have the same perspective. So it's, again, completely subjective. So then, of course, pairing that with, writing it out and then getting it published on the All These Opinions website. Yeah, that's the process. That's really it. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Takes about 4 months. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all of the questions we got. I hope that we get to do this again. Obviously, you guys can contact me through social media at Love Learn Debate. And if you guys have any more questions when we do this again, just put it through there. So we're going to take one more break before we head out. And we are going to hear a little bit of Hadar Halo's new EP. I think it's eponymous here. Excuse me. The EP itself is called Hadar Halo. This is Dancing Shadows. And oh my God, if this does not scream James Bond 007, I don't know what does. So, ladies and gentlemen, Hadar Halo.
Feel like I'm falling from the sky, diamonds in my
Now, at this point in the program, I would say that I have some final thoughts and tell you that I have a debate to start at the end of this program. But honestly, over the last 4 months, I realized something. I don't have a debate to start. So before we go, I just want to quickly reflect on the last 4 months and something I discovered as a result of that, which really does pertain to the show and pertains to the future of this program. And I really think you guys will probably benefit from this. I hope so anyway. Anyway, 2 years ago, on this very day, October the 6th, I did the very first episode of Oli's Opinions. When I began this show, I knew that it would definitely be a project that, at least for me, would prove to be pretty definitive and pretty exciting. And they have been absolutely both. Anyway, with that first episode, we did it. It was about an hour and a half. Probably was like at least 2-3 hours worth of taping, if I remember correctly. And before a few months ago, I hadn't re-released that episode because if you listen to that show and listen to the second episode after that, where we really kicked the format into high gear, the one that we've had anyway for the last 2 years, it was really completely different. So yeah, I haven't released it, but I re-released it a few months ago and I listened to it. When I look back on it, I really do laugh a little bit because I realized that I was pretty green back then and I still am pretty green right now, but I think I've improved in the last 2 years. I hope you guys agree with me on that. Anyway, 2 years later, this show really has transformed. It's become something much bigger than me, much bigger than I could have ever imagined. I've had the extreme awesome pleasure and honor to be the creator and host of this fine program. We've promoted countless artists. We've looked at countless issues around the world. The one thing, though, that I want to hammer home is that the key constant in the last 2 years is that we have changed a lot. We have continued to constantly change. Now, it's time to do it again. You may have noticed that the phrase New School of Thought has been conspicuously missing from this program as well as from all promotional material to Oli's Opinions. Well, that is no accident. When we started out, I felt the New School of Thought did apply to this show because, this was an open forum. We could talk about opinions. We could do whatever we wanted. We could talk about whatever we wanted and no one would really judge. And at one point it did apply. However, I've realized now it's really become more of a gimmick. So I've decided to retire it. New School of Thought is gone. It is dead. It is now buried with this episode. So that's out now. This show, no matter what, has always been done under the love, learn, debate philosophy, and it will continue to do so. The only difference now is a little lesson I learned during my hiatus. To start a revolution and evolve from that. Now, before I say anything else, I know what everyone's saying. Revolution, but Armand, it's not political. Oh, come on. Revolutions don't have to be political. Who said revolutions were political? Everyone has a revolution at some point in their life. Revolutions, they happen inside yourself when you realize the path you're going down is not the right one. And it needs to be acted on. That is what makes it a revolution. Once that happens, you can drop the R in revolution to turn it from a revolution into an evolution. So here's how we're going to evolve. From now on, anything political will go right out the window unless the opportunity presents itself, which it probably will. We'll see. This podcast will instead focus on the amazing world of music, not just appreciating it. Not just appreciating music, but also into how it's marketed, how it's created, how it's listened to. Every factor in music you can think of, we're going to be talking about. It's not just like one type of music. We're not going to be doing hip-hop solely. We're not going to be doing rock, R&B, jazz, blues. We're going to be doing a vast array of genres. And yeah. Every week, every episode, I should say, I will have a guest who is either a musician or a musical appreciator, like myself. And yes, there will be a few former musical guests with me talking about some of the topics. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I want to thank you guys for the last 2 years. You guys have really been amazing. Listening to the show, commenting about it, trying to give me recommendations to improve. And I feel like I've listened to you guys. And, you guys have stayed with me all these years, and I'm so happy about this. However, the Oli Is Opinions that you know and love is now dead. It's time to start a revolution and evolve. And I hope all of you listening will join me on our next episode and, join the revolution. No kidding. That's a hashtag now. Hashtag join the revolution. If you are listening to this, please just take the time right now just to go on Twitter and say hashtag join the revolution, because honestly, that would just be awesome. That would be wonderful. So, as always, go to our website, www.lovelearndebate.com, and please check out the content on all 3 categories. On our love category, learn category, debate category. Doesn't matter which, just read it. Please enjoy, share it with your friends. Do whatever you please. Don't forget also to follow us and give us a 5-star review on all our social media using @LoveLearnDebate. You can subscribe to the podcast on SoundCloud, Apple Podcast, YouTube, and Spotify. And of course, if you want some Oli Is Opinions merchandise and gear, please go to the LLD Superstore at shop.spreadshirt.com/LoveLearnDebate. My thanks, of course, to Omi Larijani for the graphics and the show soundtrack, to the incomparable Taylor Kelly and the hypnotizing Hadar Halo. Thank you guys for your amazing musical contributions. It will not go forgotten, and trust me, both of you will definitely be going back on this show because you guys are that good. And Hillary Lau and Emma Janakin for their tremendous generosity and their voices. I thank you both. Definitely we'll be hearing a lot more from you guys in the future. So that's it for this episode. I'll see you guys on October 21st. And, well, as always, until next time, keep loving, keep learning, keep debating. We'll see you next time on Oli Is Opinions. Goodbye.
This has been an LLD production recorded in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.